The two best Zerg players in the world are facing off against each other in a best-of-7 semi-finals. What I've got for you today is the RSL semis, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Rorschach, where in the bottom left-hand corner we have the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time, the current world champion. We're looking inside of the main base of Serral. Now, Serral rarely loses against Terran, he rarely loses against Protoss. Truthfully, he also rarely loses against Zerg, but this is technically his worst matchup. And in the bottom right here, we have a previous world champion of StarCraft, likewise also a StarCraft 2 millionaire. One of the names that comes up whenever we discuss who the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time is. We're looking inside of the main base of Rogue. So, a best of 7. I heard that this is considered to be the very best Zerg versus Zerg that has been played in years. I haven't seen the games yet, but I'm very excited. I love this matchup. The only thing is, right, whenever I upload a mirror matchup, usually that doesn't bring as much interest. I've noticed, at least over the years, whenever I upload a Terran versus Terran, a Protoss versus Protoss, or a Zerg versus Zerg, there's usually not quite as much interest. But lately, I've had a lot of comments left on the YouTube channel by people saying, hey, can you maybe cast some more mirror matchups? I just literally looked at it this morning, and there were half a dozen or so people below my most recent video asking if I can maybe, rather than like another ZVT, ZVP, PVT, if I can maybe cast a mirror matchup instead. Well, this, I think, is just about the perfect candidate. This is, of course, played on 5.0.16 as of me casting it. It was played a couple days ago, so we're gonna get a very good update as to where this is currently at. Now, the RSL is a very prestigious tournament, first and foremost. It's got a very significant prize pool as well. But this time around, the finals is going to take place at BlizzCon. So there's a little bit of additional pressure here for both of these players. Although, honestly, I don't really think Serral and Rogue feel any of that pressure. They're so experienced when it comes to playing tournaments. They've been doing it for such a long time. I don't think we're really likely to see any of those nerfs coming into play, but who knows, right? That is certainly something that you have to keep in mind. Another thing, I guess, before we'll look at all of the strategies, is that this is going to be played cross-server. So usually, Europe going up against Korea, it means that you play the games on the North American server, and that means that both players probably have between like 150 to 200 ping or so. I bring it up. Normally, it's not that big of a deal, but especially in a matchup that is as fast-paced as this one, it can be something that may very well come into play. Like, if you're trying to micro-ling Bane and everything is just a touch delayed, you can certainly tell. But again, it's something that you can practice for, and these guys have been practicing for that sort of thing for a long time as well, so I don't think it's going to be all too impactful. For now, identical build orders, except for this. We've got our first little deviation. Rogue has decided to go for a delayed gas geyser and then a much faster evolution chamber here. So we'll have to see exactly what the plan is. What's a little bit odd is that he did not fire up Zergling speed. Yeah, we're going straight into the +1 armor research, but we're not going straight into link speed yet. I'm guessing we're going to add that into the mix right now? Yeah. So this is, I guess, a +1 armor timing attack on Zerglings? Serral, in the meantime, taking a third hatch. And that is the part that has me a little bit confused here for Rogue. Because if you want to do some sort of Ling timing attack, you actually need a third hatchery just for the larva generation alone. The main advantage of getting the quick +1 carapace is that your Zerglings can survive a single hit from a Baneling. So they just barely survive. If there's still some links for the player that has the Banelings following it up, you can quite easily still kill everything else that's on the ground. But that's the real advantage of the +1 carapace research. Serral is already available, though, with his link speed, and he is going to try and see if he can get some sort of scout off. He will be paying attention to the worker count. He's going to see the Baneling nest there. You saw the quick click. And I think Serral's going to get a full scout right here of the main base of Rogue. There's just not a whole lot you can do if you don't have a wall off. And at this point, the finisher will already know what he's going up against. Now, how do you respond? Right? That's always one of the questions. What exactly do you do in order to counter this? Well, first and foremost, he knows that link speed is likely going to be later than his. So, yeah, maybe we can test the waters and potentially get a snipe over at the third. Maybe we can double down and we even send some Banelings across as well. Seems like Serral's just going to, yeah, try and immediately force the cancel here on the opponent's third base. Obviously, 2 Baneling hits is still going to be enough, even with +1 carapace. But look at the timing right here on the +1 armor. It's not done yet. Serral, once again, man, this is something that he does better than anybody else out there. He hits right at the perfect spot. Now, do we have enough army? That's the question. There was a Baneling Nest as well for Rogue. If the Baneling Nest was skipped, I think the guaranteed kill on the third base would have been achieved. In this particular instance, I think the dance will continue. Right now, though, in straight-up fights, the Lings in red are going to be substantially better. 2 Zerglings for a single Baneling is a good trade. So if you can pull off 2 Lings for a single Bane, it's usually acceptable. If you go beyond that point, it's a little bit finicky. I guess 3 is technically also fine. Yeah, I think 3 is also okay. But look, now these guys are surviving with a little bit of health intact. And it means that Rogue can suddenly flip the switch, and that's exactly what he's doing. We do have Serral trying to make an attempt into Roaches. Roaches are still good, but also not quite optimal, really. Like, the armor upgrade really is just a big deal. You need a lot of stuff in order to counter this, and right now, Rogue is just sending it. Rogue also making Roaches of his own. Keep in mind that they likewise benefit from the +1 Carapace upgrade, and he is ready to just immediately pull the trigger. Serral may have a worker advantage, but he needs to survive the next few minutes. You still do not want to dance, of course, with all of your Lings into a single Baneling. So far, the micro here from both players, honestly, is spectacularly good. It's very easy to just lose the game. Any moment that goes by right now is going to be an advantage for Serral, who is droning. He is droning right now? I think that's a major misread. He's already significantly up in workers. Rogue is going for a follow-up attack. This is like a 2-tiered all-in. First we go with the Ling Bane, now we go with the Roaches, and I think this is the first time that Serral really sees that this army is going across. Does he have enough time to now prepare with a bunch of Spine Crawlers? He's making as many units here as he reasonably can, but it's gonna take a while before all the units spawn. Zerglings, in the meantime, on the other side of the map, do not achieve the retreat. Rogue is ready to send it. Let's see. Spine Crawler's not yet done. Do you just run the Banes into the Spines? He's trying to. Trying to get a good hit. That's a big Baneling explosion right there. Serral is going to force another one of his Spines to be built. The advantage here defensively is really nice, though, for Serral, who's microing the weakened Roaches back. Dude, Spine Crawlers are phenomenal here. Spine Crawlers usually a little bit finicky, but yeah, they're going to do a lot of damage here throughout this fight. Rogue trying to see if he can potentially overwhelm this. Corrosive Balls do get dodged as the Spine Crawler decides to root up. Lings going in around the sides here as well, trying to get a wraparound on some of the Roaches. Corrosive Balls as well onto the Cocoons, and then some of the Roaches too. I think that Rogue is just barely breaking all of this open, and while the Spine Crawler lives for now, I don't think he's got quite enough, Serral that is, to actually hold on to the flood that Rogue is currently sending across the map, and he is not slowing down at all. Game number 1 appears to go, indeed, in favor of the South Korean Zerg. And just like that, we find ourselves on Fear and Faith. A very large map, where apparently Serral is getting the lucky scout. Rogue sending his overlord towards the bottom left. He is going the exact opposite direction. The exact wrong direction. All right, so getting the quick 1-0 lead, right? It's something you have to mix in. Rogue is a very powerful macro player. I think he's probably one of the very best on the planet when it comes to playing straight up macro. But this type of game is exactly what makes Rogue such a dangerous player. I think mechanically, Serral is probably the best. There's really not a whole lot of doubt, honestly, in that regard. I mean, some players may be able to give him a run for his money, like, for example, Clem. I think mechanically, Clem is also just an absolute monster, but while Serral may be better mechanically, right, this is not a game that is just decided by speed and raw mechanics alone. This is still, of course, a strategy game, and Rogue's mechanics are maybe like 98% of Serral's. I think strategically, Rogue is the better player. You gotta be able to mix in a lot of those other builds. And it's not like Serral is incapable of mixing in builds like that, right? It's not rocket science to go for a roach roll-in, but choosing the right build in the right situation, having the correct follow-ups and all the rest of it is really not that easy. I think it's much more likely we're gonna see the same builds from Serral over and over and over again than if we were to see that same thing from Rogue. I don't think Serral really ever opens up with a Ling Bane into a Roach all-in game number 1 of a best of 7. It's just not really his playstyle. Rogue is a lot more unpredictable, and I think it's something to keep in mind. especially in a matchup that is as volatile as this one. Now, Fear and Fate is a very large map. We also have beautiful statues. To everybody's favorite. Pictures with the dogs, actually. Huh. Everybody loves it. Although I guess the Terran are not really doing all too well on this particular planet, or whatever Fear and Faith is. Not really sure, honestly. This looks like a Terran city, I guess, right? Considering we have the tunnels going around the outside. Yeah, this definitely is some sort of Terran bit of space. I'm guessing considering there's a Zerg versus Zerg going on. Well, the Terrans are not doing all too well. Anyways, let's see. A little bit of deviation here right from the start. I think the hatchery here for Serral was ever so slightly quicker than a Rogue's. It's one of the things that the new patch has introduced. There's not as much agreement yet as far as the absolute optimal way to start off. So there's a lot of players that are just defaulting to pool first right now because it's safer against a lot of builds. And macro-wise, it's really not that much worse. But for example, 16 hatch versus 15 hatch, extractor tricks versus no extractor tricks. All of those little times are, well, gonna have to be spreadsheeted over the next couple of months. Or alternative solution here is that maybe a Rogue accidentally made one drone too much. I know. Unheard of. But it happens. Third hatcheries, though, are going to be coming up. Both players are now aware of where the opponent is. So we're going to expand as far away from the opponent as possible. I think Mutalisks in general right now are a really viable choice in the mid-game of ZVZ. So assuming you survive the earlier stages, Mutas right now are better than they ever have been. So Mutas are, well, the Spire is cheaper, it's quicker to build, and then the Mutas themselves are a little bit more microable than they used to be in the past as well. So the last two patches that we've had to the game, they really have made Muta play just a more viable choice. And I think this is the one matchup where Mutalisks always were viable. Now we have some 4-player maps, like for example this one in the map pool. I would not be surprised if we're going to be seeing Muta Wars here, but we'll talk about that if we get to it. And it's still obviously quite scary to make that actual transition, because it still takes a while. It's just a costly switch to make. And if your opponent happens to be making a lot of roaches at that point, you've just invested into a Spire and a Lair, well, things can go south real quick. Speaking of Lairs, though, Rogue is building his own right now. Serral not yet opting for anything along those lines just yet. Extra gas is being taken now, and he's got some lings out, but for the most part, it's just going to be a lot of drones. So, if you haven't seen a lot of Zerg vs. Zerg in particular, the easiest way to follow along with this matchup is, well, first off, the supply count, right? The supply count is a really big indicator of how the game is going, but the drone count usually is the really big tell. More drones is pretty much always better than less drones, even if it's just like 5 or 6 more. I mean, in this instance, that would be like a 10% economy boost, right? And in mirror matchups, especially when you're both making the same type of units, if we're doing Roach Wars and one player has 45 workers and the other one has 55, it's extremely difficult for the player that has less workers. So the game of drones is a big part of this matchup. You have to keep your opponent honest, right? So you want to keep making some units at a time. You want to keep scouting as well. But that is what both of the players are looking for here. We see Zerglings running around, just trying to pay attention to the worker count, especially over at the newly acquired base, as both of them will assume now that the main base as well as the Netro are fully saturated. So, here we go. Rogue has made his decision. It is indeed going to be a Spire. Lair just about done for Serral. He's making a lot of gas. Honestly, I would not be surprised to see a Spire going up for him as well, although we have Roach Speed. There is an animation, by the way, on the Roach Warren as well as on the Evolution Chamber, whether or not something's researching, so that's another little tell. If, for example, an Overseer can get in and you see this wiggle on the Roach Warren, it is a very big indication that, first off, well, Roaches are likely going to get upgrades, and then secondly, that there's probably also not a Spire coming up simultaneously. So, because of all of this, Rogue is now starting up. He just checked. Rogue is starting up a lot of Roaches here of his own. So, even though he's making a Spire here and he wants to save up gas, he knows that he just can't. He's going to be in a world of trouble if the opponent goes for a big Roach attack with the Roach Speed upgrade finishing. As a matter of fact, he's going for his own Roach Speed as well. Serral now allowing his units another mode of transport. Nidus network coming up. And that is something that you can counter Mutalisk with. While Mutas technically beat the Roaches, of course, it can be very difficult to get them across the map. If the Roaches are now in the opponent's main, life is very difficult. +1 flyer upgrade coming in, though, for Rogue. Mutas are already added into the mix, and that's still 9 of them. Despite the fact that he did make a lot of defensive Roaches, too, while I say that. He was making a bunch, and he's only got, well, 6 right now, actually. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit finicky. I thought he was making more than that. Does Serral have enough? Maybe he's gonna use the Nidus Merc as a way to retreat? Or maybe send in the reinforcing troops? Either way, the Mutas have been tasked with clearing that one out as soon as possible. As a matter of fact, the Nidus Worm in the meantime has been unloaded defensively now with a Ling run by going in. But here we go. Even though there's no real answer for Serral right now against the Mutas, he is just sending in the Roaches to deal as much damage as he reasonably can. We do still have another Nidus Worm going up over at the third base. Yeah, we do not see a reaction, but is it going to get sniped in time? It also means that the Roaches in the main base are going to be left by themselves. Looks like the second Nidus Worm is not going to spawn in time, but it almost did. But still, this has distracted the player in red so much, and workers are falling left, right, and center. Now, there is a hidden base over here in the bottom left. We do see a lot of units running past this point, so I think Serral probably knows. He's got an Overlord up in the air, and of course, eventually, all of these units in blue will end up going down if they do not escape through the network. The Mutas are just simply something that Serral isn't currently worried about. He'll be thinking about that in just a moment. Buying himself a lot of time now to go into the Hydra Den. Alright, so Rogue is at least somewhat safe again at home, but it did cost him 17 drones. Serral losing 28 Roaches of his own. That's a little bit scary. I love this Overlord, by the way. Hugging the skyscraper. Shout out to the Terrans that live inside of that building. It's a little bit scary, but the Mutas are now going in. They're destroying the Queens. That's really the only form of anti-air at the moment. Spore Crawlers are indeed coming up as well, though. Spore Crawlers do now deal a lot of damage to biological, so... obviously, all the Zerg units are biological, so they deal bonus damage to Mutas. The thing is, kind of like playing against missile turrets, if you have enough Mutas, you can just kill it, right? It's one of those things. It's mostly just a safety precaution that works temporarily, because if the opponent is really committed to Mutas, they can still get the job done. This is buying time, though, and that's what Serral is doing all of this for, right? These Roaches have been sent to the front as well, really just to buy time, and eventually, Serral will be able to get Hydralisks out. Okay, now even though this has been going quite well here, it seems like at least Serral has got exactly what he wanted. I don't think he really could have hoped for much more than what he's gained. It's going to be very difficult now for the finisher here to be able to get a 4th hatchery up. His plan is to hit a fungal growth onto the clumped up Mutas and then hit him with Hydras at the same time. So fungal growth into Spore Crawlers, Hydras, that sort of thing is phenomenal. But Rogue has got full map control. Look at the minimap for just a moment. Look at the amount of vision that the South Korean player has. Serral doesn't see anything, man. He's completely in the dark. And he's not even playing against dark. Maybe at the end of the year. We'll see another CVC between those two. Move, fungal. Yeah, I sees it now. Rogue saw the Infester. I always wonder if it's good to maybe get Burrow out. Just so you can suddenly catch your opponent off guard. Right now, Rogue is not going to be clumping the Mutas up anymore. There's a nice little micro trick that you can do with Mutalisks that we call the Magic Box. Where if you click inside of the Magic Box, the units clump up together. But if you click outside of the box, the Mutas tend to stay spread out. Well, unless they're all trying to attack the same Roach. Then they have a tendency to clump up again. It's okay, though. As long as the Hydras can't get underneath Fungal Growth itself, it does deal a bit of damage. But Fungal itself is not likely to kill these units. Rogue will be happy to be just controlling the whole map, right? He'll be happy to just make sure that the opponent does not get a 4th hatchery up. And that's what Serral really is lacking now. He's going into a hive. Triple Spore Crawler, by the way, in the main base. So this is Serral really turtling up right now. Hive coming up as well, though, defensively here for Rogue. Lurker Den added into the mix. +2 Carapace coming up for Rogue, so maybe he's gonna go into Ultralisks instead. This is a situation, though, where Rogue will be pretty pleased with how things are going, because he's got the bigger eco. The main problem he's running into is that in the long run, Serral's unit composition is more cost-effective. He's already pre-splitting the Banelings, trying to make sure that one Fungal can't necessarily stuff all of them, but that was still a really good job. Links of Rogue do run through. But lurkers are phenomenal. Oh, he hit a couple of roach or a couple of banelings here. The oldest trick in the book. Serral, though, a little bit too good for that. Yeah. This is what used to win games in 2010. Okay. The mutas have been a little bit lackluster, right? Like, they've been useful for keeping Serral at home, but they haven't really achieved too much. And very soon, they're going to be even worse as we have more banelings attempting to roll through. Man, that was expensive. Very soon, we're going to get Vipers out as well. Parasitic Bomb deals splash damage. It deals 120 damage to flying units, and mutas have 120 life. So they do regen a little bit while the ability is running, so one Parasitic Bomb is not going to be good enough. But what I'm trying to get at is that these mutas are likely going to fizzle out. We may have some good upgrades for them, but Serral has been deflecting them very nicely. Rogue is just sending in units, man. I don't really love this at all. Another bunch of banelings. Alright, try to slip through the cracks. Serral's defensive play has been phenomenal thus far. Dude, he has only lost 3 workers to, like, what, 30 banelings? Yeah, now Serral's getting to the point where he does have a really nice death bowl. Right, so the roaches will likely have to be traded out before too long. You really want to have the roaches, yeah, swapped on over for lurkers instead. That will be his main goal. Hydra Lurker Viper with Infestors for support is just incredibly hard to beat. But Rogue, of course, does still have map control, right? So that's his plan. You may take the worst traits in the world, but if you have more money, it's going to work out in your favor regardless, as we now have the 6th base coming up for Rogue. Serral only just now finishing up the 4th. Ultralisks indeed are Rogue's weapon of choice. +3 air weapons coming up, chitinous plating coming up. Rogue is the richest Zerg player in this game by far, but he needs to be very careful. Because Serral's army is becoming one that he can't really... yeah, he can't really beat. I mean, you can try and send Ultras into lurkers, right? But it's never a cost-effective trade. And this is where Serral is so freaking dangerous. He's practiced this style before. He practically invited this style as well. He accepted when he saw the Spire that this was going to be the type of game he wants to play. And while a lot of Zerg players are uncomfortable with it, now that was nice. The muta's actually getting a bunch of kills there on the lurkers. Serral seems to be pleased to be able to play this style. I don't know if it's the correct call. I always like the player here that's playing Muta, Ling Bane, Ultra more than the player that's playing Roach, Hydra, Ling Bane, Viper, Infestor, just because of the map control. But you don't want to be doubting Serral here. It comes down to the engagements mostly. Nidus Worm coming up as well now for Rogue. Serral is building the ultimate army for this matchup. But is Rogue not just going to be able to send in wave after wave after wave of units before Serral can really do anything about it? These are now Lings, by the way, that will have adrenal glands. So these Zerglings, they attack incredibly fast. He does have Burrow as well, so that's also another thing to keep in mind. Nidus Worm in the bottom right is awesome, though. Serral is going to be able to finally hit back. Serral's also getting Tunneling Claws for the Roaches. They sneak away again. He's also getting Tunneling Claws for the Roaches. Ooh, the burrowed Lings here are providing vision in this corner. Serral has spotted it, however. He does have enough units at home to shut this down, but that is risky, man. Lings alone just deals so much damage now. Here's the Ultralisk going through. Serral making a wall. Serral making a wall to protect against the Ultras. But the Ultras have another plan. They're going to knock down the rocks right here on Fear and Faith, so they can maybe slide in around the site. Is Serral going to add another, like, 4 or so Evos there? Double Nidus Worm at the exact same moment. Serral putting a Nidus Worm there in the corner. Rogue hasn't seen it yet. Has Serral seen the one in his corner? Nope, not the case either. Yeah, this is turning into unstoppable force versus immovable object territory now, right? Look at this, man. There's still a little bit of space here because there's no creep, but lining up the Ultras against lurkers? I don't know. I don't know about that, Rogue. In the meantime, the Zerglings are in the base. Nidus Worm is up as well for Serral, but he's decided to unload the Roaches defensively instead. To clarify, by the way, we see the notifier on the map. The mini-map, that is, of the Nidus Worm being planted down, but the players do not see that. The only thing they hear is a sound effect when the Nidus Worm finishes up. So we get this nice little observer feature where we can follow along with the game, but the players don't have that luxury. All they have is, if they've had vision of it, have a tiny, like, dot on the map. It's probably a red dot. You can standardize your colors in the in-game settings, and usually players play with the opponent being red. Alright, so Lurkers going up against Ultras. Serral's economy, by the way, is not really that bad. Like, yeah, there's been an income lead here for our South Korean Zerg, but it's not really anything to write home about. If you look at the resources lost, exactly, so Rogue is the one that's mining more. Serral is the one that's been trading cost effectively. This is not bad whatsoever here for Serral. What in the world is this, man? I thought those were gonna be Zerglings out of the network instead. Ultras have a passive where they cannot be CC'd, so no crowd control onto the Ultras. Fungal growth does not slow them down. Mutas now going in around the side. There are quite a few spores, but these are plus 3 attack Mutas. Yep, and they're going to be able to take care of a bunch of the spores and a bunch of the Lurkers too. More Ultras coming up. Viper's now also available for Rogue. If you have detection, you can abduct Lurkers. You can also blinding cloud Lurkers. That will be what his main goal is. But Serral is doubling down, man. We're doing like a double layered wall. So a lot of Evo chambers here and then a bunch of spore crawlers behind it too. Rogue now taking the alternative main base as well. So he's now got, I guess, technically 3 main bases here on Fear and Faith. Some of these outer expansions are apparently mostly just made for the Vespian gas. That is going to be his main bottleneck. And I guess, even though maybe this army of Serral is going to be really hard to beat, one thing that Rogue can still do is keep his opponent contained on just 4 bases. It's going to be difficult, man. This one is very far out there. Serral needs to spread his army super thin if he wants to actually grab another expansion. And 18 minutes into the game, the main base is out. The natural expansion of Serral is going to be out as well. The third base is not going to have a lot of juice remaining either. So either you reduce the worker count or you split up your army and you hope for the best. Obviously, Rogue is the faster moving units. Man, this is a banger of a game. This is the type of ZVZ, by the way, that is very much so unexplored territory. Because there's not a lot of top-level Zergs that face off against each other on the ladder. Like, it's not really something that gets played a ton. So, yeah, you may have some practice here and there. You may have ideas as to how you should approach it. But this is not what your average ladder game of ZVZ looks like. Even though these guys will have a decent understanding of it, it's different from ZVT and ZVP, where they actually get to practice this over and over and over again on the ladder. Serral's still making roaches. It's kind of interesting to me. Yeah, he's using the Nidus Worms together with the roaches and then the Overseers to push through. Oh, maybe he's got his eyes set on this base instead. Huh. Yeah, I would say the only players on the European server that would like to play games like this would be Serral, maybe a little bit of Rainer, but I don't think he's playing a ton of ladder right now. Maybe... Oh. That was the wrong hotkey, Rogue. A little awkward. I guess he meant to burrow the drones in the bottom left. Still had his army selected. Oh, well, those units weren't really going anywhere anyways. Maybe Lambo, right? But you run into very specific players. The problem is that Rogue will unlikely play on the European server, and Serral's unlikely to play on the Korean server. So you get a very interesting mechanic right now where maybe the players are capable of it, but they just aren't really in this situation all too often. Serral's actually infecting the main base right now of the opponent with an infestation, man. Ultras up the ramp. Lurkers, of course, are gonna be phenomenal. This is sick. This is the main base here of Rogue. That's where the Ultra Cavern and the Hive are at. Parasitic bomb onto an Overseer just to buy time. Are we gonna send it? Are we gonna send it? There's no way the Ultras can go in. And I don't believe that the Mutas are gonna be able to achieve much either. Blinding Cloud is nice though, but we already had a lot of spreads right here on the units. And I think that Serral already got what he came for anyways. This is Rogue desperately trying to get all these units out of his base. I would love to see Serral evacuate some of the units out of there, and he does. I think that was a fine engagement here for the World Champion, who's now also got rid of the majority of his roaches. Yeah, only 8 of them remain. That was a beautiful engagement there for Serral. And honestly, just about ideally what you want. Hive is gone, so we need to go into a new lair. Rogue did not start up a new Ultra Cavern before the Hive fell, so he's gonna have to want more tech up from the Stone Age. This is now gonna probably buy enough time for Serral to get another base up. He also killed the expansion, by the way, out front. I thought for a second that that was the one that Serral wanted to go for. But no, he is going to set his sights once more on the expansion over here. Looks like the Overseers ended up getting sniped. This pesky Zergling here is still blocking the Expo. But I think that one is going to be taken care of real soon. Okay. Nidus Worms again, man. Dude, Fear and Faith having this awkward pocket. And then this awkward pocket as well on the opposite end of the main base. It's so sick for Nidus play. I've never seen it being used this aggressively, but both players are loving that location. Rogue has got a massive bank, right? And he's still maxed out. He still has a good enough army to keep this player in blue occupied with. And that's the main thing I'm worried for Serral. Because Rogue is rich. Yeah, he's going in right now. Where are the fungals? Where are the parabombs? There we go. We can split. Nicely done. Yep, this is Rogue mostly just forcing the engagement and trying to get the opponent to back off. Good split onto that Muta. It's going to allow a lot of kills. And I think this will also likely secure the expansion snipe too. There's not enough to really counter anything right now. He's a little bit worried though. New main base Nidus right now for Serral. Roaches are tunneling around. Man, I'm starting to get nerd chills. This is only game number 2 and a best of 7 between these two. Mutas are just trading out for whatever they can at this point, I think. Yeah, he's just hitting whatever is possible, although he's making new ones. Wait a second. I thought he was trading them out so he could make some other units right now on the back of this. Ultra's going in for the counterattack, but no. This is Rogue doubling down on Muta play even more. Lurkers try to escape through the Nidus network. Roaches do burrow on the ground to try and stay alive. We have a lot of spine crawlers set up left, right, and center, but Serral is bleeding out right now. Look at his bank. Look at the amount of money that he's got. He may have the better army, but if he's not maxed out, what do you do with it? The new Hive! This is the new Hive getting killed as well! Rogue decided to make it in his old natural, but the natural expansion also destroyed. It's again that Nidus Worm in the same pocket that is catching him off guard. Rogue's going double Spire now, though. He did plant down another one. Yeah, he's a little bit afraid before that Lurker fell, as we have abductions right now going on to the Lurkers. He's a little bit afraid of this Spire bleeding out because there's no longer any creep to support it. Double Spire in the far bottom left. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing one of them maybe in a different location. Looks like the drones are escaping through the tunnel. One Muta. This was, I think, the one that was being parabombed? I don't know. He's got full HP again. Yeah, it's not gonna be enough, though. There was another engagement happening in the middle, but Serral is flat broke, and he needs to tap out. What a beautiful game. And just like that, we find ourselves on Eternity's Edge. Or at Eternity's Edge? We find ourselves on at Eternity's Edge. That doesn't seem right. Let me try that again. At Eternity's Edge is map number 3 in this best of 7 series. There we go. That's a better way to introduce it. I think the map should be called just Eternity's Edge. At Eternity's Edge? Why do we have an at? What do we do next? Do we add verbs to it as well? Is that going to be the next map pool? Just to make it more confusing for the caster. There's not a lot of people that this bothers, I'm pretty sure. There's probably only... yeah, it's just me. Yeah, it's probably only me. Alright, beautiful previous game, though. Rogue clearly with a very deep understanding of the matchup, right? Like, he can play games like the one that we just watched, right? Like, we've seen what he's capable of in the second game. But remember how he started off this series? He started off with a cheese. Right? If you can play games like the one that we just saw, would you still be cheesing a lot yourself as well? It's exactly what makes this man so scary. And would you look at that? Game number 3. We're going for a gold base first in the far bottom left. This is Rogue bringing Serral out to play. This is saying, this is Rogue saying, yo, if you want to fight, you better throw some punches. If you're just gonna sit there and, yeah, play defensively, I'm gonna gobble you up. It's a triple hatch opener right here for Rogue. Triple hatch before gas, before pool. You would never do this in a ladder game, but it makes so much sense given the setting, given the opponent, given the current map score. And this is why I think Rogue is, yeah, my favorite StarCraft 2 player right now. At least when it comes to playing with the Zerg. There's just something about him. He's got this aura of being able to do quite literally anything. Mass macro, mass cheese, mass anything. He's a man of extremes at the very least, and I love it. All right, Serral's gonna scout. He's like, oh, this is a pool first. Look at the timing of this hatchery. That's a pool first. It's not a pool first. It's a hatch. Obviously, the timings are all a little out of whack. Does Serral even recognize this? I think on the previous patch, he probably would have realized that this hatchery timing is a little bit odd. But now, since we have an 8-worker start, all of those times are thrown out of the window. He may still have the gut instinct, though, that something is wrong. Where are these lings headed? The lings are going across, I think. No, that was Rogue moving something in that direction. Serral's still just gonna send the link straight across. All right, gold base. Drones are being made. It is important to not make anything but drones on this particular expansion, so I would imagine Rogue probably has his hotkeys for the hatchery split up. This would be 2 hatcheries on one control group. And then this one needs to be on a separate one, I think. He may actually still have it on the same control group. It's a little bit risky, because the main problem you run into is that this Overlord may see units coming in from the left, which is a clear giveaway that something suspicious is going on, but Rogue doesn't really care. What you can do right now, as Rogue, is flood the map. How in the world is Serral going to stop a link flood when there's golden minerals coming in for Rogue? Now, Serral does, of course, have a little bit of a tech advantage, and he's actually ready to send it himself. Wait a second. Serral is going to scout the gold base. Baling Nest is built over here in the far bottom left. Serral is sending a large number of lings right now. I don't know if he realized that something funky was going on, or if he's just using this situation that he's accidentally stumbled upon to his advantage, but he is ready to go in. Did Rogue get a little bit too cheeky here? Did Serral get lucky? I honestly think it's option 2. I think Serral was already planning on going for a ling bust, and then, oh, he could have had all the drones. Oh, all right. Rogue is a merciful player. I think he was already going for a Ling Bane bust on the other side of the map. I think he was already going for the switcheroo, and then he's accidentally stumbled upon, yeah, a gold base. It's a little bit too juicy. Yeah, the hatchery might live after all, though. If you look at the worker count right now, how bad is this truly for Rogue? I don't think it's the end of the world. Awkward game now to play, though, because if I was in Serral's shoes and you've just killed so many of your opponent's workers, you would assume you're also simultaneously at a massive eco lead. Good bailing hit. That really helps. Worker-wise, this is still playable. I think you could probably play a 2-base build right now. You could probably go Roach Evo Chamber. If Rogue wants to give up on this altogether, honestly, but he is not really planning on it, I don't think. Since the Baneling Nest is over here, yeah, he's not going to be able to stop that one, I don't think. Nah, just barely falls. Nice micro by Serral. Yeah, Serral's not going to give up until this base is dead, though. Baneling Nest number 2, added to the back of the main. Ultimately, though, it does not really matter. I think the writing is on the wall for this particular game. Rogue with a bit of an early GG. I don't believe that he really needed to leave just yet, but this certainly did not look amazing here for him. But cool strategy overall. This does give Serral a point on the board. I think the GG was a little early, right? But you're both making Masseling. Serral had a Baneling Nest and a Roach Warren, as well as a 3rd base. Rogue was very likely going to lose the gold base next. Maybe he also thought, okay, I just lost a big batch of drones over in the bottom left. Worker-wise, I'm pretty far behind. But Serral was really committed there. Truthfully, this is also a best of 7. There is something to be said for maybe, yeah, not wasting energy on a lost cause. Even if you can still stay in for another 5 minutes by turtling up. That was going to be a very difficult objective to overcome. Either way, though, it looked like we were going to get a 3-0 advantage for Rogue in this particular series. And a 3-0 lead is nearly impossible to overcome. A 2-1, a lot more reasonable here for Serral. Let's see. We're on Void Storm. Void Storm is a map that only gets played for the RSL. Now, obviously, the players know that this map is in the map pool. They've played on it a couple of times before, but it's likely that this is going to be one of the maps that you don't really practice on all too often. Serral opting to go for a hatchery first. Hey, he keeps making it... What the... I was gonna say, he keeps making it a supply earlier than Rogue. And when I clicked on the production tab over here, I assumed we were gonna get our screen to move to the opponent's natural. I mean, this has to be a link flood, right? Look, let me try and explain this. I know this doesn't look like a link flood, but it's the only strategy that makes any sense in my mind at all. To Serral, this is gonna look like a pool first. It's a hatch first. A little bit funky. Yeah, this is triple hatch into gas into pool. The only reason you can have a hatchery like this is for larva generation, and the only unit that requires a lot of larva is the Ling. I don't know if this is gonna be one of those weird delayed ones. The problem is, if it is a weird delayed one, I don't know if you can build the hatchery over here. Nah, probably not. I think you would still prefer... Serral's gonna scout. Oh my god. He sees, though, that there's no queen in production. Yeah, he just clicked the hatchery as well, and that's funky. So, just like the Evo Chamber and the Roach Warren, the hatchery should be wiggling when something is being made. If you compare it to this hatchery that is producing something, you see how it's wiggling? This one wasn't wiggling, man, and Serral will have observed... Oh, there's a little bit of wiggling going on, but that's idle wiggling. It's a small tell, but Serral certainly has picked up on it. It's what he was checking for. Serral is very suspicious on what is going on in this game, and I agree, making a lot of units is probably the right call. Alternative choice for Rogue, though. He can kind of pretend that this is StarCraft 1, that this is StarCraft Brood War. He can just... pretend that this is just a way to generate larva. Yeah, Serral's looking around the map right now for another proxy hatch, just like what he had to play against in the previous game. I wonder if he actually frantically looked around for a moment and checked whether or not Voidstorm had any gold bases on it. He's like, wait a second, this map doesn't have gold, right? Wait, it doesn't have gold? Is there a rich Vespian gas somewhere? I don't know. Nah, nothing's going on, Serral. It's just a hatch first inside of the main base. Honestly, you could just play macro here as Rogue. Maybe just the confusion alone is good enough. Serral's ready, though, to send it. He's been making links for a long time. And now he's in that awkward spot where he kind of needs to make a lot of links and then do something with them. I don't think this Overlord is likely to die. Yeah, Serral's gonna... Ooh, at least consider taking the long way around. Rogue now sees it, though. Don't you just wall this in? Yep, instant full wall. Honestly, I think you don't even wall with the queen. I think you have to full wall. Okay, he's gonna re-wall instead. Here we go. Serral's ready to bust. And that's one thing that you always have with Zerg players, man. They love busting! Oy, oy, oy. I don't think he's gonna be up in time. Baneling's also preventing a structure from re-walling this yet again. And while, once more, Rogue seems to be able to get away with one of the dumbest builds ever, apparently everybody's got a plan until the Zerglings and Banelings hit you in the face. Well, that will take us to the Old Sun Temple. I wonder if Serral just for a moment thought, 2 games back to back. Oh, crap. Now I have all these units. Because sometimes you expect your opponent to go all in. Because I think that's why he was originally making that army in the previous game, at the very least. Sometimes you're making all these units because you want to counter an all-in that is not coming. And then you're like, oh, I guess I have this army, now I'm all-in myself. It's a little bit weird. But he still managed to, yeah, bring that game in his direction. So that's a very quick 2-2 score right now on the board. Rogue trying to throw multiple curveballs in 2 games. And neither of it really worked out. I do want to just emphasize, though, how close both of those games were to working out in his favor. Because forcing Serral into an all-in position is something that I think he's very uncomfortable with. He does not really like playing from that spot, especially when the series isn't really looking that hot for you across the board. I do think that overall, I do prefer Rogue's chances in this series right now. Because Rogue is the one that holds all the cards, right? Serral's the one that's playing reactively, and yeah, I don't know. Game number 2 was nice for Serral, but it was still not good enough. Still, margin for error is very, very small. And right now we are, of course, in a spot as well where Serral might be able to win 3 maps back to back to back. I wonder if there's any consideration for Rogue that this is going to be played on the NA server. I do think the odds of the opponent going for a Ling Bane play are ever so slightly smaller when you do play with ping. It's just slightly less comfortable. Doesn't seem to dissuade Serral, though, from giving that a shot, but it is something to keep in mind. It's a beautiful statue. Yeah. We have been on Terran worlds. This one seems to be, the Old Sun Temple, seems to be a Protoss world instead. We have another one over here, too. Another big map. And one that only has 2 spawn locations for the opponent. So the players will know that the opponent is not vertical. So it's either cross or horizontal. Serral scouting the far bottom right first. Did get confirmation that there's no creep. Rogue already rerouting his very first OV a little bit before that point. He must have maybe seen one of his opponent's overlords. Yeah, I think that's what happened. I think his second overlord saw that the opponent's first overlord was... maybe the second overlords looked at each other for a little bit. He rerouted, though, before technically confirming that the opponent wasn't here. Anyways. Zerglings going around. And we will begin the dance. The dance of death. At least that's usually how Ling Bane goes in my mind. Yeah. Technically, right, the skill expression on Ling Bane is just ridiculous. Because these units are moving much quicker than a reasonable human can actually micro when you have like 50 of them. Maybe if you're an AI with 9,000 APM, you could pull it off. But I do think you need just about a little over 9,000 in order to pull off perfect micro with units like this. So the skill ceiling is incredibly high. Serral again making a good number of lings here. I mean, it's not too much. He's certainly not as committed as he was in the previous 2 games. But it's also not enough for just defensive play. I think when you make 10 of them, you do want to test the waters a little bit. It's a large map, though. Takes a long time for units to get across, and in this matchup, usually you do keep the overlords positioned quite aggressively, so you'll see that for both of the players on the minimap. So we effectively, like, that's the main thing that the players are looking for right now. They're planting overlords on locations where units on the ground are guaranteed to move by. So Rogue has got them on the 2 attack paths right now that he's worried about. There's one over here, one to the right, and then one over here to the left. So he's parking overlords in those key locations, and then he's got a couple as well as a backup plan on the other side. And Serral likewise doing the same thing. Planting an overlord in the middle as a spotter unit, but then also having overlords here to see, well, all 3 of the attack paths. And obviously, if you see your opponent sending a lot of lings in, you can use that additional bit of time to make your own army ready to deal with any sort of defensive play. And this is mostly the players making a couple units here and there, maybe making a little bit more than a couple, honestly. But making a bunch of army here and there, showing it to the opponent, and then using it either offensively or defensively. Both players, though, really trying to play a bit more of a macro game now, which is a bit ironic to say when there's a big fight going on like this. Obviously, if you take a big Baneling hit to the face, Serral will be more than happy to double down. Big mistake there from Rogue. There is a wall off in the natural, but that third base is toast. Beautiful bit of micro here by Serral. There are some lings on the other side as well, trying their best. Serral, though, droning up. Lair just about done. We are going to see a re-wall. Man, are we going to see a re-wall? No, roaches are going to try and take the place instead, but this is kind of finicky, man. Those lings are really fast. Serral, though, decides to back off. Oof, rough spot. Rogue again. Rogue again with a cheeky play. So, it's a double Evo. It's a double Evo. +1 melee, +1 carapace, +1 missile, no lair. I mean, these upgrades are not going to be done in time, though, for Aspire. Yeah, Serral is indeed going into Aspire right now, and I think it's the perfect choice. Maybe you can go for a big all-in right now as Rogue, but Serral is going to see everything. He's going to pick up on the fact that there's no lair, right? He's got a changeling in the natural. Apparently, it's the macro hatch that gets to promote to a lair. I'm assuming it's a promotion anyways. Maybe it hurts. I've never really thought about this from the hatchery's point of view. Maybe it hurts to be turned into a lair. So it's the new guy. It's the new guy that gets to witness the pain of the upgrade. But anyhow, these upgrades are nice and all. The worker count is not terrible here for Rogue at all, but this is a game where it can very quickly slip out of your fingers. Huge map. Muta play is phenomenal. Lair is super late here for Rogue, so I don't believe he can play Mutas of his own. We may very well get a polar opposite of what we had in game number 2. At the time it was Rogue with full map control. Now it's going to be Serral, I believe, with full map control. Although Serral does go missile upgrade, so maybe this is like a conservative Spire. Yeah, I guess that feels more in line with the way that Serral likes to play anyways. Rather than mass Muta, he's probably gonna make like maybe 10. Grab the map control, but then swap back to a ground-based unit composition instead. I wouldn't mind it though if he just decided to do the same thing that Rogue did in the second game. It's more Serral, I guess, to use the Mutas for map control, secure a 4th base, keep the opponent contained on 3, and then play the same type of unit composition as the opponent, right? It's more of a preferred playstyle for him. No, it's gonna give Rogue quite a bit of freedom though. Yeah, Mutas into Roaches doesn't feel nearly as oppressive. And now suddenly, I guess the extra upgrades here are pretty sweet. Now, Rogue, interestingly enough, despite making the swap on over towards Roaches and knowing that the opponent has Mutas out, he's going +2 melee. You would imagine you want to be playing for Hydras now. But apparently that's not the goal. I'm not really sure what Rogue is planning on doing here. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's going to have one really scary attack in him, but I'm a little bit afraid that past that point, he's going to fizzle out real quick. Look at the supply count already. Those upgrades are nice and all, but yeah. So if you look at this map right now from Rogue's point of view, there's still a few Mutas, or sorry, a few Overlords out that the Mutas didn't get to yet. But Rogue is completely in the dark. He has no idea. Serral has all the control in the world. He's been scouting. He knows what we have here on the other side of the map. And I think he's more than ready for anything that Rogue can really throw his way. Yeah. So very conservative approach here for Serral after grabbing an advantage. And that is something that I feel like we can sometimes criticize Serral for a little bit. Right? You get the advantage. You get like a 30% advantage, and then you're like, okay, let me turn this into the safest 10% advantage instead. If that makes any sense. That's the way that Serral likes to approach the game. It's like, bro, you had the huge lead. Maybe we should send it. Okay, maybe he is sending it. I take it back. We're going for a big Bane push. Maybe he's not sending it with Mutas, but we're gonna go for a big Roach Bane bust. Let's see. Roll, roll, roll your Banes gently down their face. I mean, there's a lot of armor, though, here on these units in red. This, I don't know, man. I feel like this is kind of messed up, right? Like, we have a 4th hatchery, at least now, for Rogue. Muta's going in around the back, but let's see where the Banelings are going to go. Man, Serral has found a love for busting. Hatchery dies, by the way. Okay, those Banelings didn't really do too much. Rogue is thinking about a counterattack. He knows that he's got a small upgrade advantage. He knows that he's got, obviously, a pretty good number of... Oh my god, wait a second. Did I just miss the Baneling roll-by over here? Ah, I did. So, while all of the aggression was going on, a few Banelings. Which ones are they? Ah, it's you guys. Okay, so while the fight was going on, I missed these. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. This solidly secures Serral's advantage. That little hit squad of Banelings While the majority of the Banes didn't really achieve much, that hit squad of Banelings justified the entire attack. Now the main objective is gonna be just stay alive. He's gotta stay alive, that's the main goal. Maybe that's the song that just came on in his headphones, you know? There's no way that Serral listens to staying alive. First I was afraid. Nah, there's no way. He probably doesn't listen to music while playing. Rogue does snipe the 4th hatchery right here of the opponent, though. Yeah, I think this counterattack is going to be really tough. The fact that Rogue manages to reduce Serral's economy back down to 3 bases is really good. Imagine, though, if now in this instance, those drones did not kill, or those Banes, rather, did not kill the drones at the 3rd. I don't think this playable, or this spot would have been particularly good for Serral. I think it would have been fine for him, but it wouldn't have been nearly as dominant as it is right now. And protecting against the Baneling roll-by is not rocket science, it's just that Serral did his classic thing where he's attacking at like 4 different places at once. And it's now allowing him this potential attack right here once again. But still, I feel like this game is, yeah, it had slip potential, if that makes any sense. Serral closing it out, though, very cleanly, it appears. He doesn't have the upgrades. Those are still on the horizon at this point in time. Rogue has now finished up his +2 missile as well. Yeah, I think Serral could have been playing, like, Mutaling Bane with Roaches for support if he wanted to. And he could have been at, like, 5 bases easy. Sorry, what happened? PP lag. Let me know when it's good again. Go, go. Ready? Go, go. All right. Mapu being the dedicated observer for this particular game. He probably caught the Banelings. I think I can actually switch to Mapu's point of view. Is this Mapu's view? It might be. Yeah, this looks like Mapu's view. The dedicated cameraman for the tournament. I never really like casting like this, though. I always prefer controlling the camera myself, even though I'm certainly a better caster than observer. It's I don't know. I don't really like the way the camera moves when you double click it like this. I will say, though, at most StarCraft tournaments, having a dedicated observer is pretty nice. Makes the job of casting very relaxed. I don't even have to do anything. I just have to yap. Yeah, this is one of those unfortunate games where Rogue is actually, I think, strategically playing a really solid game, but he just doesn't have the numbers. And even if you are playing strategically a really sound game, this is Serral you're going up against. Maybe you can out-strategize him, but Serral has got more income, he's gonna have more units, and it's gonna be pretty much impossible to secure the comeback when you're both playing the same army. And if he wanted to make the swap on over towards a different type of army, well, Serral's taking care of that problem too. So we have effectively just got Roach Wars, where Serral has got like a 10-worker lead. And while, of course, there is a defender's advantage, the upgrade lead is now gone. Serral wins 3 games back to back to back. And that takes us to the Celestial Enclave. Now, I do have to admit something. I knew that this game was at the very least gonna go to Game 6. Because about a dozen of you reached out after this particular game got played that if anything, I need to check out Game 6 between these two. And you know what? We're on the Celestial Enclave. Okay. Let's see. The Celestial Enclave once again. I love this map. I mostly love saying the name Celestial Enclave, but also I think the map layout is very, very cool. I heard that this game is absolutely phenomenal, so let's find out together. Should I show you what I know? It's a near half-hour-long game. A near half-hour-long macro game of ZVZ? I just want to emphasize that, like, if you only ever see mirror matchups or maybe StarCraft 2 in general on my channels, that's very rare. This is a matchup. I don't have the numbers to back this up, But this is definitely the one matchup that, on average, has the shortest games. At the very least, when it comes to ladder matches. Out of all the different matchups that we have in the game, I would imagine the average game of ZVZ is like 4 minutes. Probably about 4 minutes if I were to make a guess. Yeah. It's so incredibly easy for things to go horribly wrong. Okay. Overlords going across the map. Natural expansions are taken. Neither player really committing to anything weird. We do, of course, have the in-base expansions on the Celestial Enclave. And yeah, I'm not surprised to see that Rogue is a fan. This is a pretty greedy start yet again, man. So this is hatch, gas, pool, hatch. But normally we don't do this until after the queens are out. So the normal timing on the hatchery is when you are, well, already dealing with a bunch of queens. So Rogue, yet again, throwing a bit of a curveball. I don't think you can really use it very aggressively, though, on this particular map, because it's pretty easy for Serral to wall the high ground. So really the only entrance early on with like a link flood would be, yeah, through the ramp here. There are these rocks in the back, but these are pretty beefy. Not really something you can very easily break through. So I would imagine this is Rogue just starting off with a lot of workers. Rogue is having a little peek at the potential third bases for the opponent. Keeping an eye out on drones that may be leaving through that low ground area right here. Because I do believe that Serral will likely be taking this as his third base. This expansion is only 5 mineral fields, a single gas geyser, so we're missing out on 3 mineral patches and then also a second gas. Yeah, it's a nice base to have, but it's not really the best. Creep already extending all the way to the ramps right now. Easy to wall off if you want to. Okay. Serral actually mining 100 gas earlier, but not starting up the link speed. And instead, he's going straight into a lair. So it's a lair here early on. And I guess that's because he is now the one that has the advantage in the series. Right? This is technically a little bit dangerous. Skipping link speed, skipping the baneling nest. But when you have a little bit of wiggle room, why not? He's also seen the in-base expansion here. So he knows what Rogue is up to, or what Rogue is more than likely up to. This is awesome as well here for Serral, intercepting the other overlords too. And while none of the OVs died, Serral has got exactly what he wanted this entire game long so far. These overlords are chasing each other. Yeah, it's like watching dogs at the dog park, but the dogs are very old. But at least they're having a good time, you know? Maybe this is a mating ritual, I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, Serral is gonna go for the third base in the in-base expansion location instead. I guess it's because there could be a link flood. So again, right, with quick triple hatch, it's one of the reasons why you have a hatchery usually early on. You can go for a lot of links. I guess we never quite found out in game, what was this? Game 3 and 4? Yeah, game 3 and 4, why Rogue went for such a third hatch so early on. Serral hunting overlords yet again. Is he finally going to be able to celebrate with popping the balloon? Yep. Okay. So, what do we do? What do we do with the quick lair? There's no spire or anything along those lines, but we do have a quick roach speed together with the +1 missile upgrade. And while of course it's difficult to break open the opponent's natural expansion, you can certainly give it a try with roaches and +1 attack. Likewise, in the meantime, on the other side, we have roaches with +1/+1. So Rogue trying to grab that little advantage there of the +1 carapace. Obviously, he knows that his third base was quicker than the opponent's, so he's somewhat safe here. Even goes for a fourth hatchery out already, and I think this more than justifies Serral going for a bit of an attack. He's obviously going to be faster with that roach speed upgrade, so I would like to see him move out right now. Okay, let me try again. Okay, we're going to not do that. We're going to instead just take a fourth base of our own. Yeah, he has seen the opponent go for a fourth hatchery too. So I guess now we're playing roach chicken. right? Now we're basically saying, yo, whoever attacks is gonna be at a slight disadvantage because the defender's advantage is so big. We've both been pretty greedy. If one of us puts down a Spire or even like a Hydra den, it means that you're gonna have less roaches. So now we're playing Roach Chicken, and there's actually, there's games out there where both players are playing Roach Chicken, and we don't see anybody actually attack until they're maxed out. And this may be one of those games. These are like the weirdest games to explain, though. Okay, Rogue is going Spire. And he's also attacking. Ah, just kidding. Ah, just kidding to just kidding. Ah, just kidding to just kidding to just kidding, actually. Serral's looking at the minimap right now. He sees the big movement. Panics a little bit, makes a lot of roaches of his own. Ultimately, though, the Spire build time reduction from 2 patches ago really is a big deal. That Spire is already halfway done. Serral sees it now. He's got Overseer speed, Overlord speed done, so he's going to be able to get through these bases pretty rapidly. Gas is taken now. I think Serral could send it. Are you not going to send it? Really? Yeah, I guess he's been looking at the amount of defensive roaches. Evo Chamber is going to get denied its upgrade for a little bit. Hydra then instead? Okay. So, it's 56 workers versus 72. Right? And when it comes to these mind games, and this is a pretty good example of what I was trying to explain earlier, I always think Rogue pretty much wins that. Rogue always seems to just pull ever so slightly further ahead in these type of games. Strategically, Rogue is just so freaking strong. The faster third base over here really does help out. The fake move outs 17 times over. He's now gotten away with the map control. Now, weirdly enough, he finished the Spire, starts up +1 air weapons, and then he actually never made mutas yet. He's maxed out, so we're not likely to see any mutas until a remax? Serral's like, yo, bro, did you cancel? Like, what's going on? Did you go Hive? Nah. Did the Spire get canceled? No, it's still there. It's even wailing. Okay, roaches are indeed moving across. There's Hydras already available, though, for Serral. Hydras do add a lot of additional firepower in this type of army. Looks like Rogue is going to try and go in through the back door. At least with some of the roaches. We have Tunneling Claws, we have Burrow, we have a Dropper Lord, we have an Infestation Pit, we have 4 Spine Crawlers. Rogue is doing everything all at once. Another hatch as well in the far bottom right. Yeah, it's awkward though, right? Because like both players are effectively skipping the mid game while making a ton of mid game army units and then not fighting. Before you can switch to the unit composition you're planning on, you do need to trade out at least some supply. This is the type of game that only makes sense as a Game 6 type of game. If I would have only casted one match of this series and I would have chosen this one, this would be the strangest game to look at, right? Like, it only makes sense with the perspective of hindsight. Lurker Den together with a Hive as well coming up. It's really odd here. Rogue not going into any mutas at all. Yeah. I think he's decided the muta play was a bad choice. Making the investment into a Spire. He does have Tunneling Claws, though, so that's going to allow his roaches to move around while burrowed. Serral likewise also doing the same thing right now. Hatchery in the upper left as well. Rogue being polite and providing a little bit of creep. Roach is moving around now here, and this is where things do get a little bit hectic. A lot of moving parts right now for Serral. He has an Overseer in the main base. He has detection as well from a Spore Crawler in that pocket expansion. So far, he deals with all of this perfectly. This is Serral's point of view, by the way. But this does have the potential to become extremely frantic really quick. Likewise, Serral now also has the opportunity to burrow around his roaches. There's still a bunch over here that came in through a private Dropper Lord. Serral now sending his roaches towards the bottom right as well. Not a lot of static defense in that area just yet. Looks like the Dropper Lord has actually decided to back off. Spore crawlers being made en masse over here in the bottom right. Roach counter-attack as well by Rogue in the upper left. Now the Roaches on burrow since drones have arrived. Lots of static defense coming up. One of the Roaches did apparently sneak into the main base as well while underground. Nidus Worm also added into the mix. Lurkers coming up for both players. This is the... We're gonna stress all your multitasking skills all at once. All in one go. This is Rogue's point of view while looking at the game. Is it? No, it's not. This is Rogue's point of view while looking at the game. Serral going around, trying to also intercept a bunch of units. Ooh, now the Tunnel Clawed Roach there, providing vision for the Nidus Worm to go in. So he pops the Nidus Worm down in the corner of the main base, and then puts a bunch of lurkers inside of the network too. Let me go ahead and grab control of the camera once again. Serral trying to see if he can, prevent any of the lurkers from unloading. Gets over there just barely in time, but now Rogue is sending leftover Roaches towards the upper left, and they are certainly going to guarantee the snipe on this base. Nidus Worm right now on the pocket expansion as well to prevent these Roaches really from getting much done, or getting intercepted, I suppose. They're going to be able to finish the job that they were assigned to. Roach here, that was burrowed, does get spotted. And while the Nidus Worms aren't free, this all seems to be going really nicely here for Rogue. Serral now knocking on the back door here as well. Anybody home? Well, there's an Overlord here providing vision. Rogue putting up a Nidus Worm yet again, but... yeah, easy denial for now. Serral's bank is pretty significant, though. Both players finishing their 3-3. Lurkers are just about to come out in very big numbers. How many lurkers do you want? Serral only actually has one for the moment, but I think he's just about ready, yeah, to really jump at the opportunity and make a lot more. There we go. We have another batch of 5 finishing up. One of the weird things is that you have a lot of Roaches now still. The Roaches are by far the most supply-heavy unit that you have at this stage in the game, so you want to kind of try and get rid of those. Rogue's starting to make a lot of Overseers now. Vision is nice. Detection is nice. Honestly, even the contamination ability can be really nice. Ooh, Serral found a perfect opportunity, though. Just walk through this middle of the map and, yeah, gets the lurkers in a position. Say goodbye to the Nidus network. That also automatically denies the Nidus from going up on the other end. And suddenly, this game can be flipped upside down, man. Rogue was in a fine position earlier, but he just lost the 4th base in a moment. He is dealing a bit of counter-attack damage, though, through that Dropper Lord yet again. But Serral is smelling blood, it seems. Here we go. Rogue is thinking about pulling the trigger. He wants to surround this army. There are a bunch of Vipers available for Serral, but they don't appear to have a lot of energy. Okay, this army here in blue is going to try and slither away through the bottom right. They have to go past a lot of static defense. I don't think that's going to be easily done. Ooh, a lot of the expensive units get shot at as well. And that is ultimately Serral's units getting cleaned up. I think Serral probably should have sniped the base and went home. That was a pretty expensive set of losses. Income-wise, Rogue has been in a very comfortable position for basically the entirety of the game. Army-wise, though, things are still totally fine. The main bottleneck we'll likely see the players hit is the amount of Vespene gas that they have. So, especially now on the new patch, since these extractors have 2,000 gas in them rather than 2,250, you do run out pretty fast. It's one of the reasons why you still want to be expanding quite aggressively around the map. Minerals are nice, but not the main unit you want. Because, I mean, you can make Zorklings, that's nice. You can make Spine Spores, Queens, that sort of stuff, but really, all the really good army units in the late game are all gas heavy. Be it Lurkers, be it Mutas, be it Hydras, be it Infestors, Vipers. You just need an insane amount of Vespene. There is a rich Vespene gas geyser here in the middle of the map as well. Looks like Rogue is ready to strike back. He's got a lot of Overseers here. Parasitic Bomb onto the Overseers. I wouldn't even mind it. There we go. Yeah, we do indeed see exactly that. Vipers are quite expensive. So you do want to make sure that you get, well, some value out of the transaction. Okay. You can abduct the opponent's Vipers, as we just saw displayed here by Rogue. Interestingly enough, you can even have two Vipers abducting each other at the same time, which means that they switch position. I think they should face plant in the middle. But apparently that's not how things work. That is where I'm in the main base yet again. Dropper Lord again, unloading a single lurker still in the corner of that pocket base. Rogue really just trying to create a lot of distractions. But Serral's multitasking seems to be good enough. Spore Crawler repositions. Roaches unburrow, and that's another lurker gone. The battle of the APMs now. Rogues is gonna have to go up. Serral already at an average of 415. Good abductions. Lovely abduction there by Serral. Roaches in blue right now for Serral, moving around as well. Nidus Worm in the corner of the base. Provided vision there is from those changelings. We have a lot of clumped up overseers. Unsieges the ones that are affected by the parabomb. Roaches in the meantime going in around the site. A lot of drones dying, man. Nidus Worm goes up as well. There's a secondary Nidus Worm here. Serral is suddenly destroying the economy here of Rogue from the inside out. Not quite staying around for long enough to kill the hatchery as well, but maybe the one over here can die. And honestly, there's really not that much mining anyways. Drones want to try and go in through the worker-only path, but that's not going to happen. And already the units in blue have slithered away yet again through the network. Serral taking one of the bases that I think technically belongs to the opponent. Celestial Enclave, by the way, has a bunch of really difficult to acquire bases. This one's manageable, but the center expos are going to be extremely narrow. Very difficult to secure. We see Terrans do it with double planetaries, but last time I checked, Zerg doesn't have access to that. This is nice, too. Ooh, Rogue does snipe a base here of the opponent. Nice abductions, though. That's really expensive. He gets one Viper. If you get all three, that would have been incredible. New drones being made right now by Rogue. Feels weird, but yeah, he needs some more workers. At least there's still the rich Vespian gas. So Serral is working very hard to kill a base and economy of the opponent, and Rogue just wandered in and killed a hatch. Right, he just walked through, sniped the base, and walked out. Viper here, overextended. Inviting these Hydras to get within lurker range. At this point, there's not any lurkers out here for Rogue. Nidus Worm here, immediately getting poked away at. This is the dream right there of many people. Many people would have loved to be that Nidus Worm. Anyways. Serral taking bases left, right, and center, but being forced to retake them as well, because at this point, even though he's got a good worker count, a lot of the workers are not really doing anything too useful. These outer expansions are gonna start running out. And that means that slowly, the players are expanding in the direction of the opponent. Slowly, they're becoming neighbors. Not by choice, but because they have to. Ooh. Man, so many expensive units dying. Yet again, look at Rogue here, man. Beautiful positioning. Maybe a Hydra got abducted, but that's fine. Hydra even lives. Another hatchery falls. We have another counterattack over here, though, on the left. Hydra's dashing back home ASAP. I think there's enough Vipers up in the air for Rogue to secure the expansion. Can we snipe some of these units, too? Can we snatch a couple of those lurkers on the retreat? Viper count is a huge tell, by the way. The more Vipers, the better. Now, you can parasitic bomb the opponent's Vipers, too. Theoretically, not as good as abducting them one at a time individually, but in a chaotic moment, it may very well force the opponent's Vipers to back off. And while these units are reasonably tanky, again, it's 120 damage for a parabomb. They have 150 HP. Yeah, it's still, like, again, right? The bottleneck is being human. The bottleneck, very much so, is the amount of actions that you can execute. Counterattack over here in the bottom right. Rogue, maybe felt safe because of the amount of static defense that he made. But that is all gonna fall very quickly. This does mean, though, that Serral is currently way out of position. Yep, immediately, Rogue is giving up on the base, and he's going in for what appears to be a counterattack. We have some Hydras here already sniping one hatchery. Bottom right-hand corner is indeed gone. Serral does have a Nidus Worm set up, so he can quickly retreat if he wants to. Hydra's really just sticking around, though, to deal as much damage as possible. We have another retreat path here for the player in blue, as Serral is ready to snipe another base. This is the expansion that he sniped earlier. Couldn't quite get the units out at the time, but I think this time around it should be fine. And Serral doing a phenomenal job as well, deflecting the big counterattack there from Rogue. He wants to get the Spore Crawler too. I don't think you want to walk home. No, 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 no. Serral, don't do it. Go through the network, brother. Roach is in the meantime. Or Hydra's rather in the meantime, trying her absolute best. Ah, one of the lurkers got abducted, but apparently was safe, just barely in time. Serral counterattack here in the middle too. Lots of drones dying now on the side of Rogue. Serral's income has just gone through the roof compared to Rogue's. Yeah, Rogue at this point does not have any mining. He lost the bases that were harvesting resources. Serral is on the verge of breaking through all of this. Nice counsel here, though, by Rogue. Rogue making as many expos as he reasonably can. Serral also, likewise, making a new expansion over here. Finally seems to be somewhat secure here on the base in the middle. But we've now even returned to making sure that we just cancel whatever we have in production that we don't need. Rogue's army, though, is absolutely massive, and this engagement could be huge. Vipers are getting abducted. The blinding clouds here preventing a lot of the units here from Serral from firing, and that's more of the Vipers getting shut down. Suddenly, there's only 2 Vipers remaining here, and Rogue may not have a lot of lurkers, but he is destroying this army in blue. Viper showing us what they are capable of when you have enough of them. To celebrate the victory, Rogue decides to kill one of his own overseers. Likewise, Serral decides to join in that party. Well, that was a phenomenal fight right there for the South Korean Zerg. Serral now forced to spend a lot of his bank, but look at the Vespian gas. He does not have any gas remaining anymore. The rich gas geyser has not been mining. This base has been denied repeatedly as well. Likewise, Rogue is running out of cash, though. He's making a lot of extractors here, but both players are desperately trying to look for some Vespian. Now suddenly Zergling run-bys once more are indeed going to be an opportunity. Look at both players 22 minutes into this game, deciding to now go back to Lings. There is +2 melee for Rogue, which is actually extremely useful. He did also go Adrenal Glands. That's a big deal too. The Zerglings here of Serral don't even have link speed. This is when Serral realizes it. He's like, crap, I decided to be greedy in the early game, remember? I decided to go lair first. He just remembered that that indeed was what happened 23 minutes ago. I do really like that for Rogue, though. Wait, Rogue has Adrenal Glands but no link speed? Rogue has Adrenal Glands but no link speed. What? +2 melee, but no link speed. Oh, this is awkward. Those red links, by the way, are gonna dominate. Yeah, they are absolutely going to massacre those links. That is something I've never seen before in 16 years of StarCraft. I have watched many a game. I mean, obviously, this is the lowest priority for both of these players. Rogue hasn't even noticed yet that this is going on. This is mostly them just trying to dump minerals, but that's pretty freaking funny. As a matter of fact, I think he probably did notice, but he doesn't want to spend the 100 gas right now. And you know what? I don't disagree entirely. Slow links do about as much right now as fast links. Obviously, faster is better. But he's making links to prevent himself from, yeah, being forced to spend gas. Serral's gonna finish up Metabolic Boost. I almost feel like it's bait at this point. Oh, a couple of Vipers! Couple of Vipers of Serral sleeping! Dude, Serral has no more Vipers. There's 9 Vipers available for Rogue. That's insane. Yeah, these links in red are going to nibble away at bases real quick. Serral going for the, or Rogue rather, going for the slow run-by, and more units get abducted. Vipers just destroying so much. Roaches, though, are scary here. Serral is, yeah, just getting some decent trades because those units are far more tanky. Rogue decided to stand his ground. I wonder if maybe he should have sent those links from the opponent's natural down to the low ground as well to help out. Couple of roaches in the bottom right trying to be as annoying as possible. Serral did already kill a bunch of roaches or a bunch of drones, and he's going to return to more of that as well. Rogue going in for the counter-attack at this stage in the game, though. Apparently not really caring too much about the little bit of mining that he's got going on. Rich gas geyser probably should be secured. Both players, though, have so many different balls to juggle at this stage in the game. He doesn't know yet about the amount of mining that's going on in the upper left-hand corner. Serral has 28 drones mining at that section of the map, but honestly, that's the only income that Serral currently has. Blinding Cloud over here is decent, but I wouldn't mind it if we see some of those units making a bit of a pit stop in the upper left. I think you kind of have to, yeah. Rogue knows it's risky. He doesn't know exactly where the armies are located, but he knows that he needs to do something. He cannot allow Serral to just send this. Serral going in for the Link counterattack instead. This is where Metabolic Boost would actually be phenomenal. Looks like Rogue decided to just snipe the hatch and went across. Burrow actually a pretty, good choice here for the player in red as well to prevent the Links from destroying everything. Look at how strong, by the way, these Hydras become, right? So these are unupgraded Links for Serral. No Adrenal Glands versus +3 armor to Roaches and Hydras. Yeah, they're taking like no damage whatsoever. The Immortal Roach. I think these are the types of roaches that can indeed survive a nuke. The drone's not so lucky, though. Mostly just a distraction, really. That's what the minerals are for at this stage in the game. Difficult, though, for both of the players to really determine where they are currently at, right? How do you even know what your opponent currently has? Like, we have full vision over the map, and it's confusing for both of us, right? Like, we know that this is gonna be tough, but ultimately, there's just too much stuff here for our South Korean player. And that means, with Rogue outplaying Serral in the late game, that we are going to Game 7. And that means it all comes down to this. Necropolis. Game 7 in a best-of-7 series. It's crazy to me that Serral is losing in the longer games. I don't remember a time when Serral has gotten consistently outplayed in the later stages of a game. But Rogue is, well, maybe APM-wise not faster, but he's making all the right decisions. Serral unable to really compete with it. And I wonder if that's almost like a disconnect as well right now for Serral. He's like, wait a second, I always win by dragging the games on. That's what I have been doing for, well, like, I don't know, a decade at this point. I usually win the macro games. Usually my mindset is to survive the early game, to survive the mid game, and then to dominate the late game. But Rogue has been beating him at his home turf. So what do you do now? The best games that Serral has played, weirdly enough, were the ones where he was forced to accidentally do a Ling Bane all-in. In Game 3, I think he was planning on it, but I don't think it's been the case all the way through. Do you just blindly now commit to a Ling Bane bust? It's Necropolis, man. This map is pretty long. Takes a while for units to get across. If you look at the minimap, it almost kind of looks like a 4-player map. Not quite the case with the amount of bases that we have, but you can kind of see the size of the hatcheries, I suppose. That's how you can judge it. The smaller the squares on the minimap for the hatcheries, the larger the map is. Both players, though, hatch first, at home. Spawning pools on the back of it. Hatch, pool, gas. Serral scouting Overlord. He's going to see in just a moment that indeed it is a hatchery first. Rogues also is going to see the exact same thing momentarily. Serral keeping his second Overlord at home for a little bit longer. Rogue sending his second Overlord straight across the map too. I would imagine this one is going to probably be parked somewhere outside of the third base, just to provide vision in that regard. Again, you want to make sure that you have some sort of spotter unit at all of the different attack paths. Right now, though, it's also important, right, if you are the player that is competing in this game, to keep your head cool. There's a lot of stress. You know there's going to be a lot of people watching. This is where experience is just so massive. Rogue has been playing this game for an extremely long time. He, of course, went to the military in Korea, did his mandatory service, came back, once more climbed to the very top. Serral has been at this level since about 2018, maybe late 2017 or so, so they've been at it for a long time, and that experience helps a lot. But for newer players, when they're in a situation like this, usually Game 7 becomes an absolute shit show. It's almost a bit of a shame, right, that these players are so experienced in this kind of situation. Because usually these games, they have a tendency to devolve into an absolute clown show, but not the case here. I at least doubt it. We shouldn't be seeing any micro mistakes. Bailing nests coming up. Safety bailing nest, though, I believe. And now we play Zergling Chicken. We have spotter units out on the map. We see if the opponent makes a lot of links. You want to have a bunch of links out so you can morph them into Banes. But how many Zerglings do you produce? Anywhere between like 2 to 20 is the norm. This is where ZVZ is kind of wild. You can do whatever you like with the first larva popping off. It seems like both players have decided to commit to the bare minimum. Both players making drones. Serral scouting it out perfectly. We do not have such a scout for Rogue. So Rogue operating a little bit more in the dark. Serral hiding a Roach Warren. Hiding a Roach Warren, second gas, resaturating the main gas. Lair coming up in the meantime for Rogue. Supply block as well for Rogue. Ooh. I guess he expected that this hatchery would already be done, but this supply block is kind of painful. Roach Warren starts up because of it. This Overlord's very late. He's going to be unsupply blocked in just a moment, but this is mission critical here for Rogue, man. He should be very glad that there's not a link flood here for Serral. That's how he won 2 games in this series already. If he would have committed to one right now, I think it would be near impossible for Rogue to hold. But this is not the real attack. The real attack is following this. It's a large map, but Serral is ready to send it. A very out-of-character move, if I'm being honest with you. Maybe Serral's feeling the heat? Nice split over there on that Zergling, though. The Banelings here miscontrolled by Rogue. We have a Spire coming up for the Zerg player in red, but Serral is already sending roaches. The dance of the Banelings and the Zerglings is good. Queen ends up going down as well. Serral is holding all the cards. That was some really bad miscontrol by Rogue. And you know what? I thought that Rogue was going to have the experience to not falter in a situation like this. But we saw miscontrol on the links. We saw miscontrol on the Banes. We saw the Queen overextend, and we saw a supply block. Serral's now ready to bring it home. Does he have enough? This is very committed, though, by Serral. He needs to deal damage with this. Economically, he's still behind. But how in the world is Rogue gonna be able to defend it? Wow. Ultimately, Serral gets the job done. He does so in a very uncharacteristic play. I can't believe he decided to commit to one final all-in. But you know what? It makes sense. Choosing the right strategy at the right time is probably the hardest thing to do in a game like this. So committed, though. And such a large map as well, where, you know, if it's a map with a short rush distance, it makes more sense to go for the very aggressive play. But, well, Serral once more brings it home. And that means, well, he will be in the finals of the RSL. GG.